Silence can be more than just the absence of words. It can be a silent killer in relationships. You may not realize it, but the quiet after a rejection can be deafening, and it can leave an emotional scar that runs deep. Imagine this: someone you care about, maybe someone you've rejected, is left in the silence that follows, questioning themselves, feeling isolated, and unsure of how to move forward. This silence isn't just uncomfortable for them, it can be emotionally devastating, and in some cases, it can even haunt them long after the moment has passed. In this video, we're going to explore how your silence after rejecting a man could be doing far more damage than you think. We'll dive into the psychological effects that silence can have, how it affects his mental health, and why, even though rejection itself can be hard enough, the silence that follows can become a much deeper wound. You might think that giving someone space is helpful, but what if silence actually amplifies their pain? What if it's making them feel invisible, unworthy, or completely alone? By the end of this video, you'll understand how silence can weigh heavily on someone's emotional state, especially after a rejection, and why it's important to consider the deeper impact of your words, or lack of them. You'll learn how this silence can affect not only their sense of self-worth, but also the potential for healing and growth in the relationship. If you've ever found yourself unsure of how to respond after rejecting someone, or if you've experienced rejection yourself and wondered why silence can hurt so much, this video will give you insights you won't want to miss. But that's not all. We'll also look at why men might feel this pain even more intensely than you might expect, why this emotional response is often misunderstood, and what you can do, whether you're on the giving or receiving end of rejection, to make sure that the silence doesn't destroy what could have been a healthy emotional connection. So stay with me till the end of this video, because what we're going to uncover will change the way you think about rejection and communication. If you've ever been caught in that awkward space of not knowing whether to say something or let the silence linger, this video will guide you through why your actions, or lack thereof, can have an impact that stretches far beyond what you might have imagined. Welcome to our channel. If you find this video insightful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us for more content on relationship dynamics, emotional well-being, and the unspoken truths that can shape the way we connect with others. Rejection, in the context of relationships, can be a deeply unsettling experience. It's more than just hearing no or being told that someone doesn't share the same feelings. It's a personal experience that cuts to the core of who we are. In relationships, rejection isn't just a simple aha moment. It's a signal that something isn't aligning, whether that's a lack of romantic interest or the end of something that once held promise. For the person on the receiving end, rejection is a reflection of their worth. It's as if someone is saying, "You're not good enough. Not enough for me," and that sting can echo far beyond the moment itself. It makes a person question their value, their appearance, their personality, and even their ability to be loved. While rejection might be part of life and relationships, it doesn't make the emotional blow any less painful. For many, rejection can trigger feelings of inadequacy, making them feel like they've somehow failed or missed the mark. The emotional impact of rejection can be profound. Initially, it might start with confusion as the mind races to understand why things didn't work out, why they were turned away. The person might wonder, was it something I said, something I did? Was I not good enough? These thoughts can quickly spiral into deeper emotions of sadness and frustration. A person may not only feel rejected by the other person, but also by themselves, questioning their own judgment and self-worth. In many cases, these feelings of inadequacy are linked to deep-rooted insecurities. Rejection doesn't just hurt in the moment. It reminds a person of past instances where they might have felt ignored, overlooked, or unappreciated. It becomes a mirror reflecting their worst fears, that they are unlovable or undesirable. This kind of emotional impact doesn't fade quickly. It lingers, often leading to a cycle of negative thoughts and beliefs about themselves. Feelings of loneliness often accompany rejection. When someone is turned down or rejected, the world feels like a much emptier place. This isolation can be especially painful when the rejected person feels like they're the only one going through it. They may withdraw from social situations, not because they want to, but because the rejection leaves them feeling unworthy of attention, affection, or connection. As the days pass after the rejection, the loneliness can feel heavier. The person might replay moments in their head, wondering if they could have done things differently. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, they might think. Perhaps I came on too strong. These thoughts often lead to self doubt, and over time, loneliness morphs into something deeper: depression. Depression after rejection isn't just about sadness. It's a state of feeling numb to the world. The things that once brought joy may lose their shine. A person may find it difficult to motivate themselves to get out of bed, go to work, or even engage in activities they once enjoyed. The emotional toll rejection takes on a person's mental health can be overwhelming. It's not uncommon for those who have been rejected to feel an overwhelming sense of hopelessness, as if the future holds nothing but more rejection. In addition to loneliness and depression, rejection can also bring on anxiety. The fear of future rejection becomes paralyzing, leading the person to avoid new opportunities for connection. Every encounter or potential relationship becomes a reminder of the past pain they've endured. Their mind races with, what if this happens again? Or, am I going to be rejected once more? This anxiety can block them from moving forward, keeping them trapped in the cycle of self doubt and emotional withdrawal. These feelings, although deeply painful, are not unique. Rejection affects everyone differently, but it is something we all experience at some point. The key to understanding the full emotional impact of rejection is to recognize that it doesn't just affect one's feelings in the short term, it can alter the way we see ourselves and how we interact with others long after the event has passed. When someone experiences rejection, they're not just losing a potential connection, they're facing a blow to their own sense of identity and worth. That's why the emotional aftermath of rejection can be so hard to overcome. The pain of rejection is felt in waves, and the longer the person remains in isolation, in silence, the more that pain can grow, becoming all-encompassing. The silent treatment is often used in relationships as a way to deal with conflict or to express dissatisfaction. It involves deliberately withholding communication, ignoring the other person, and refusing to engage in any verbal or emotional interaction. This silence can last for minutes, hours, days, or even longer, depending on the severity of the issue and the individuals involved. The silent treatment is often seen as a form of punishment or a way to express anger without direct confrontation. While it might seem like an easy way to avoid conflict in the short term, it often leads to much more complicated emotional fallout, especially when it follows a rejection. In many relationships, the silent treatment is used as a tool to gain control or force the other person into submission. It's a way of creating distance without the need to engage in an open conversation. This withdrawal can leave the rejected person feeling abandoned and confused, unsure of what to do or how to respond. Instead of allowing space for an open dialogue to understand what went wrong, silence creates a void, a lack of closure, which can leave emotional wounds that take much longer to heal. When silence is used after rejection, the impact can be even more damaging. Rejection already brings up feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and confusion, and silence only amplifies these emotions. The rejected individual is left alone with their thoughts, and the absence of words leaves them to fill that space with their own interpretations and insecurities. They may wonder, did I say something wrong? Was I not good enough? Am I being punished for trying? Silence doesn't provide any answers. It only deepens the questions, and those questions can be paralyzing. This kind of silence can make the rejected person feel invisible, as if their feelings and thoughts don't matter. In a way, the person who has been rejected starts to feel like an outsider in their own relationship. When someone doesn't respond, doesn't acknowledge their pain or presence, it feels like they no longer exist to the other person. This can lead to a deep sense of isolation. They might withdraw even more, unable to reach out or make sense of the silence surrounding them. The psychological effects of silence are far-reaching. For the rejected individual, silence can make them feel like they are being ignored or punished, and this can trigger deep-seated fears of abandonment. The mind races with thoughts of why the other person is silent, what they're thinking, and how long this silence will last. There's no way to resolve the uncertainty because silence leaves no room for clarity. The person left in the silence doesn't know how to fix the situation, and that lack of resolution can lead to feelings of helplessness. Additionally, silence can create confusion in the mind of the rejected person. When someone is silent after rejection, the mind automatically fills in the blanks. If there's no communication to guide them, they may start to overanalyze every detail of the situation, imagining worst case scenarios, or becoming obsessed with what went wrong. This cycle of negative thinking can spiral out of control, leading to self criticism, anxiety, and even depression. As the silence stretches on, the emotional toll can become even more severe. The person who has been rejected may begin to internalize the silence, thinking that the lack of response is a reflection of their worth or value. They may start to believe that they aren't deserving of love or attention, which can lead to a breakdown in self-esteem. Silence, in this sense, becomes a form of emotional neglect. It sends the message that the rejected person's feelings don't matter, and that can leave lasting scars on their emotional well being. What makes silence even more challenging is that it often creates an emotional void that is difficult to fill. The rejected person may seek out other forms of validation, trying to find comfort in friends, family, or other relationships, but the absence of closure or communication from the person who has rejected them can make it hard to heal. It's as if there's a missing piece that they can't find anywhere else, and the longer the silence continues, the harder it becomes to let go or move forward. In many ways, silence acts as a magnifier for emotional pain. When there's no chance for conversation or explanation, the pain of rejection can fester, growing deeper with every passing moment. Instead of offering a pathway to healing or understanding, silence leaves the rejected person to struggle with their own emotions in isolation, without the comfort of knowing that their feelings are valid or understood. This lack of connection creates a barrier that becomes harder to break down, leaving both individuals stuck in a cycle of emotional disconnection. When we talk about rejection, we often think about the obvious pain of being turned away. It's the moment when a relationship or connection seems to fall apart, leaving one person wondering why things didn't work out. But rejection, especially in romantic situations, goes beyond the immediate no. It strikes at the core of who we are and can send ripples through our self-esteem, identity, and sense of worth. For men, rejection can feel like an assault on their masculinity and their social standing. Men are often taught that being rejected is not just an emotional blow, but a challenge to their worth as individuals. Society's expectations make it difficult for many men to openly express vulnerability, and rejection often makes them feel powerless or small. The pain that comes with rejection can be sharp, but it's not always the most dangerous part of the experience. There is something even more unsettling that happens afterward: the silence. After a man has been rejected, silence can creep in like an invisible force, amplifying the pain and confusion that rejection already brings. The silence might be intentional, the result of avoiding confrontation or dealing with discomfort. But whatever its origin, the effect it has on the rejected individual can be devastating. When someone rejects a man and then follows it with silence, it leaves a void, a space where communication, connection, and understanding should be. This is where the real danger lies. Silence doesn't offer any resolution, no comfort, and no closure. It leaves the man to stew in his own thoughts and assumptions. He may feel as though he's been discarded, and the silence only deepens that feeling of abandonment. In these moments of silence, the mind races. The man might replay the events leading up to the rejection over and over again, wondering where things went wrong. He may question himself, his appearance, his actions, even his personality, desperately seeking answers that silence refuses to provide. The lack of communication only exacerbates these feelings of confusion, because without any feedback or dialogue, the mind has no way to process what happened or to make sense of the rejection. Every unanswered text, every moment of silence, sends a message that only deepens the emotional wound. The psychological effects of silence after rejection can be just as intense as the rejection itself. Isolation creeps in quickly. When no one reaches out to offer understanding or comfort, the rejected individual can feel completely alone, as if their feelings don't matter. Loneliness can become overwhelming. It's the kind of loneliness that makes it hard to escape your own mind, to stop spiraling in thoughts about why this happened and what it says about you as a person. As the silence stretches on, feelings of inadequacy can set in. Without communication to restore a sense of connection or closure, the man may start to internalize the rejection as something deeper, as something he may not even say. He may too simply go through the motions defying the hate and something more reflective of his own value. Silence becomes a breeding ground for insecurities. He might start thinking that perhaps he isn't worthy of love, that his worth is too little, or that he doesn't deserve to have his emotions validated. This self-doubt is a dangerous side effect of silence, as it can lead to a cycle of negative thinking that's hard to break free from. Another layer of emotional distress comes from the feeling of being invisible. Silence after rejection leaves the person wondering if they're even worth the effort to acknowledge. It's as if they've become a non-entity in the eyes of the person who rejected them. The feeling of being ignored, of having no impact, of having no amount of love and support they can find to control the emotions they feel for so long to come through is something that makes everything feel pointless. The silence creates a wall between the rejected individual and the world around them. In this emotional space, it's easy to feel invisible, forgotten, and alone. The confusion that comes from silence can also lead to a lack of closure. Closure is essential to healing, but silence doesn't allow for any clarity. Without closure, the rejected person remains stuck, unable to move on or gain understanding from the situation. They don't know how to proceed, what to feel, or how to make sense of the emotions swirling inside them. Silence leaves them hanging, unable to process the experience in a healthy way. Ultimately, the silence after rejection doesn't just leave a person feeling abandoned, it leaves them emotionally wounded. Silence amplifies the hurt, increases feelings of isolation, and makes it fall, creating a painful and confusing state where the emotional wounds are left to fester and grow deeper over time. The longer the silence continues, the more difficult it becomes for the rejected person to heal and find a sense of peace. It's not just the rejection that hurts, it's the silence that follows. A silence that can become a silent killer of emotional well-being. The silence that follows rejection can have profound emotional consequences. For the person who has been rejected, this silence isn't just about the absence of communication. It's a loud, constant reminder of their emotional pain. The initial shock of rejection might be overwhelming, but it's the lingering silence that often becomes the hardest part to bear. Without any form of acknowledgement, the person is left to wrestle with their own thoughts and feelings, which can quickly spiral into anxiety. Anxiety often sets in because there's no way to process the situation. The individual can't figure out what went wrong, and without any answers or feedback, their mind races through a million possibilities. Did I say something wrong? Was I not good enough? These questions can torment a person, causing them to become fixated on the rejection and the silence that follows. Their mind becomes a constant source of worry, making it difficult to focus on anything else. The uncertainty created by silence only fuels this anxiety, as the person begins to feel as if their worth is being questioned in the absence of any explanation. In addition to anxiety, prolonged silence can also contribute to feelings of depression. The emotional toll of being ignored or rejected can make a person feel utterly isolated, as if no one cares enough to reach out or offer comfort. This emotional withdrawal can leave them feeling like they don't matter, deepening the sadness and despair. It's as if their emotions are not worthy of recognition. But the truth was, I didn't believe anything I said. I tried to hear him, not because I wanted to acknowledge him, but because I thought, and this sense of invisibility can lead to a deep sense of loneliness. Depression can take root when the silence stretches on, with the individual feeling that their emotions are trapped in an unspoken void, unable to find release or understanding. As depression sets in, there's also a noticeable decline in self-esteem. Silence after rejection is like an echo of unworthiness, reinforcing negative beliefs about oneself. When there's no communication to provide reassurance or support, the rejected person may begin to internalize the rejection as a reflection of their own flaws. I must not be lovable, they might think, or I'm just not good enough for this relationship. Over time, these thoughts erode their confidence, making them question their value in both the current relationship and future ones. The longer the silence lasts, the more their sense of self-worth diminishes, turning their emotional state into a downward spiral. Another critical consequence of silence after rejection is the strain it places on the relationship. While the initial rejection may have been difficult, it's the aftermath, characterized by silence, that often causes the most lasting damage. When silence sets in, it erodes the foundation of communication, which is essential for any relationship to thrive. Silence doesn't provide a space for reconciliation, for understanding, or for emotional healing. Instead, it acts like a barrier, pushing both people further apart. As time passes, the rejected individual may begin to feel like the relationship is entirely over, that there's no chance for things to improve. They might feel abandoned, which only adds to the emotional distress. But the silence doesn't just affect the rejected person, it also makes it harder for the one who rejected to reach out and repair the bond. The longer they remain silent, the more difficult it becomes to break that silence without feeling like they've made things worse. This ongoing silence, rather than offering a path to resolution, only exacerbates the tension and deepens the emotional divide between the two. Prolonged silence creates a vacuum where misunderstandings and assumptions thrive. The rejected person starts to wonder if the rejection was a mistake or if it's a definitive end. Without clarity, they are left to fill in the gaps with their own interpretations, which are often far more negative than reality. These negative assumptions can build walls of resentment, mistrust, and bitterness. It's easy for a relationship to disintegrate in this space because without the opportunity to discuss feelings, grievances, or expectations, both individuals become trapped in their own thoughts, unsure of how to move forward. Additionally, when silence persists, it becomes harder to rebuild any sense of connection. If both individuals continue to avoid communication, they miss the chance to share their thoughts and feelings openly. Reconciliation requires honesty, vulnerability, and a willingness to listen. Silence denies both parties the opportunity to engage in these important actions. It becomes almost impossible to repair the relationship when both are stuck in emotional limbo, unsure of how to bridge the gap between them. The longer the silence lasts, the more difficult it is to find a way back to understanding. At some point, the silence may feel like a permanent state, and with it, the relationship may start to feel irreparable. What could have been a temporary rift, a chance to heal and move forward, becomes a chasm that feels impossible to cross. Both individuals may start to feel that the damage done by the silence is too great to overcome, and the relationship may fall apart entirely as a result. After rejection, one of the most important steps toward healing and moving forward is fostering open communication. Silence may feel like an easy way to avoid confrontation, but it only prolongs the emotional strain. Open dialogue, on the other hand, offers a chance for both parties to express their feelings, address misunderstandings, and clear the air. Encouraging honest conversations allows both individuals to share their thoughts, whether it's about the rejection itself or the emotional turmoil that followed. By talking openly, the rejected person can voice their hurt, confusion, and frustration, while the person who did the rejecting can explain their reasons, offering clarity. This exchange of feelings can create understanding, making the rejection less about personal flaws and more about the situation or circumstances. It's important for the conversation to be free of judgment, allowing both parties to speak freely. When emotions are left unspoken, they fester and grow, but when shared, they become easier to process. Having this open dialogue also provides an opportunity to seek closure, which is vital for moving forward. Without closure, the rejected person may feel stuck, unable to move on from the past. They may remain trapped in a cycle of unanswered questions and emotional baggage. A simple conversation, even if it's difficult, can bring a sense of relief, allowing both individuals to let go of lingering feelings and step into the next phase of their lives. empathy and emotional support are equally crucial after a rejection. It's one thing to talk about feelings, but it's another to truly understand and validate them. Empathy involves putting yourself in the other person's shoes, recognizing their pain and acknowledging their emotional experience. When someone has been rejected, they often feel vulnerable and unimportant. Offering empathy shows that their feelings matter, which can help them feel seen and heard. Empathetic listening can be incredibly healing, as it reassures the rejected individual that their emotional response is valid and worthy of attention. Support is also an essential part of the healing process. It's not enough to simply acknowledge someone's pain. Offering support shows you are committed to being there for them during their difficult time. Emotional support can come in many forms, from offering comforting words to providing a shoulder to lean on. The key is to let the rejected person know they are not alone, that their feelings are shared, and that they have someone who cares. In the absence of communication, people can feel abandoned, but showing support can counteract that sense of isolation. It can give them the strength to move through their emotions and start the process of healing. When someone is going through emotional distress after a rejection, they may feel like they don't know how to navigate their feelings. That's where a supportive conversation can make a difference. By listening carefully and responding with empathy, the rejected person can start to make sense of their emotions and regain a sense of stability. It can also help rebuild trust, particularly if the rejection was unexpected or caused hurt. A caring, open conversation can reinforce that the person who rejected them still values the relationship and is willing to support them in the healing process. Another aspect of effective communication post rejection is clarity. It's important for both parties to be clear about their intentions moving forward. Sometimes, after a rejection, people might get mixed signals, unsure whether the door is still open for a friendship or whether there's a possibility of reconnection. Open dialogue can address these uncertainties, establishing whether the relationship is truly over or if there's potential for a future interaction, even if it's on different terms. This clarity can help eliminate the emotional confusion that often follows a rejection, giving both individuals a roadmap to follow as they process their feelings. It's also vital to approach the conversation with patience. Healing after rejection takes time, and the person who has been rejected may need more space to come to terms with their emotions. During this time, being patient and understanding can help foster an environment where healing can happen naturally. Pushing for quick resolutions or forcing someone to move on too soon can make the situation worse, leaving the rejected person feeling pressured and misunderstood. Taking the time to listen, offer support, and communicate clearly creates an atmosphere where healing can take place at a comfortable pace. Effective communication after rejection isn't about fixing everything immediately. It's about offering a safe space for feelings to be expressed, validated, and understood. It's about showing the rejected person that they are not alone in their emotional journey and that they have the support they need to heal. Whether the relationship can be repaired or not, open dialogue and empathy can help both individuals grow emotionally, leading to healthier interactions in the future. In conclusion, we've explored the deep emotional impact of rejection and how silence afterward can amplify feelings of isolation, anxiety, and confusion. The silent treatment, though sometimes used as a defense mechanism, can cause lasting harm to both individuals involved. We've discussed the importance of open dialogue, where honest conversations can foster understanding, provide closure, and begin the healing process. Additionally, showing empathy and offering emotional support is crucial in helping the rejected person cope and move forward. As we wrap up, take a moment to reflect on your own communication style and relationships. Silence may seem harmless at first, but it can carry a heavy emotional weight. Consider how your actions, or lack of them, might be affecting those around you. Are you giving them the space they need to heal, or are you unintentionally causing more pain through your silence? If this video resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from hearing this message. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insightful content like this. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.